All right, we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to sitting down with Jeff Gunsberg. Jeff, good afternoon. I'm about to say good morning. Co-founder of Title Connect. Jeff, I'm excited to talk to you because your world has been back to business for a while, and so it's been a wild few months, and now we're kind of everybody's getting back into business. So I want to kick off and talk about how you guys doing, and really just rewind for a minute and talk about how did you coach your sales team right through the March, April, May-ish time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still going through that, and it's an ever-changing thing. And I think that's kind of the main thing to have at the forefront of my mind and their mind too, is that this is just it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And we as salespeople are always in front of people, right? Like you and I, we were always in front of people. I came to your office, we're sitting in, across from each other, and that has now changed. So, doing a lot of things virtually and not being able to meet, presents some challenges in creating relationships. But, I think, first off, the sales team has been amazing, super positive. And business-wise, things have gone, a lot better, and we've been able to navigate through this much easier than I anticipated. I think one of the other pieces too is that, although this is, there's a business to run and there's things to be done there, a lot of this is mental. Everybody's going through the same thing, and we're, detached from people, and so we've had to have that in mind, and communicating more, being on calls, video calls like this 3 times a week, whereas we weren't doing that before, has been kind of a main piece of us staying in touch and working together to further the agenda.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm a big believer that the difference between good and great and exceptional is distant execution, right? And I think a lot of companies found themselves in COVID times where they didn't have the systems and the processes set up on to be consistent communicators as far as effective communication, consistent with their ability to talk about empathy, be empathetic, and just be in front of their people. And so what have you found that is more that you're executing on more consistently on, like the meetings that 3 times a week that you're just seeing as a new normal of your daily business weeks?
Yeah, I mean, so and we worked together a ton, and before we the salespeople and I would communicate, but we would have the monthly meeting. And, as time went on, that monthly meeting became, sometimes mundane and just part of the routine. And, although these times have been crazy, creating that communication, that connection, 3 times a week and being on those video calls, the involvement has been better. We've been consistent with it. And, after this goes by, I don't see that going anywhere. I really find it as a useful piece of our communication and being together. We do them Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, 8:30 in the morning. They're 30, 40 minutes, and it just kind of kept everybody together and in touch. And just new ideas come up easier, and it's just it enables us to be more organized and consistent. Consistent is a big piece of success.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that I think a lot of companies found is, especially during COVID, I know during COVID, I was having a lot of, and when it initially happened, I was doing a lot of workshops around the country for companies who wanted to just kind of coach their people on how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
But there was also still a layer of, okay, here's how you can take care of yourself. But then here is kind of how to focus on what you need to do, right? Time block differently because now you're homeschooling your kids and all that.
Sure.
But we still need to hold you accountable because, accountability without authority doesn't mean much, and we still have to do our job. And so how were you able to hold your people accountable while still having, empathy for their situation, and gratitude for them just sticking along the path of doing the best they could?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that, the accountability, I kind of felt like we shifted the accountability piece more so on the entire team, the collective, versus like the individual goals. Because everybody, business starts to slide, and obviously, with everything going on, you can only do so much and do so many deals based on the current environment. So, everybody, the main thing that we discuss is, how do we become and make certain that we're accountable to each other, which in turn embrace the accountability individually for people too. And we succeed together, we fail together, kind of turned into everybody just pitching in and starting to do things more so individually. And like I said, everyone was great. I mean, the level of positivity was and still is impressive to me. So.
Yeah. Well, that says a lot about the culture of the company, because, to me, this is a time where leaders really show themselves. And when there is that type of leadership in place, then resilience is part of the equation, right? It's easier for people to be inspired and be resilient when you have empathetic, effective communicating leaders.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about that, you as a leader, right? So, sometimes they say it's, it's lonely at the top because you're leading the charges. And so, sure. How were you able to kind of tap into your own resilience, which then, was able to inspire your team?
Yeah. I think, everybody kind of, struggles through that, but I flash back, and you were part of it too. Back in 2010, we've gone through things, and I think maybe numb is not the exact right word, but you become more accustomed to the fact that nothing is promised, and you have to take yourself and put yourself in a position where, listen, I could crawl into the corner and and not do anything and say, why me? Or I can set myself aside from everybody else and just start putting myself out there. And, I think what always has, even going through that time, what made me feel better is figuring out a way to find something positive to hang my hat on.
Yeah.
Find somewhere to go where, I can get deals and some positivity can be created, and then build on that. And I think that's what each of us has done, and taken just a minute thing, one little minor success, and taken it and then built upon that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. So when you are, when you're leading, right? I think leadership, it just goes back to kind of mindset. One of the things you mentioned earlier. And so, and how do you get your team, right? Because I think, based on what you were saying, I think there's three different people. You got the resilient people, right? And then you have the people who just have a destroyer mindset, where they're victims. And then you have the people who just kind of come back and they're stable. But to be resilient, it requires a consistent daily uptick in your mindset.
Yes.
And so as you're having these meetings, 3 days a week, as you're talking to your people, as you're leading your sales team, as you're doing sales yourself, how do you stay in a positive, proactive mindset? Because I think that's where a lot of people could really use some advice and guidance.
Yeah. You think about, like I said, I keep kind of going back to those times where things were not great, and there's all kinds of different times where that happens, and you just have to immerse yourself in what's going on and find the positive. And I think what builds character is, in the worst of times, the people who come out and succeed and figure out a way to get out of it, it's just super rewarding. And in my mind, I don't see any particular event or anything that could happen that would stop me from doing what I do. And in my mind, that's how I think. And I think that you have to put yourself in a position where, listen, you know what? Here's what we can do. Here's how we can sell. And, you know, in the beginning of this, we had a conversation. You know, I was talking to the salespeople, like, listen, guys, we built our business on relationships, and we're going to reach out. And sometimes the best selling is not selling, and communicating with people and talking to them and saying, listen, how are you? What's going on? And reaching out to people. And you know what? Listen, you might hear some negative things, obviously, with everything that was going on. But at the same time, you're still staying connected. And I think people remember that. And especially when it's genuine. You know, I mean, I continually reach out and have conversations with my clients, and got people who are in different situations and own restaurants and, movie theaters, and, people who own tons of property, and things might not be the greatest. So, but, the resilience of the collective in this industry has been amazing too, which, I've won some good strengths from that also.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about, Jeff, because, the non-selling selling, calling to check in, it also kind of checks ourselves that, never take a client for granted. And sometimes clients become prospects because their model has changed, right? We've seen so many businesses affected in so many ways. But what the fundamental element should never go away is always following up with those people, still staying in front of them, right? They just are on maybe pause, but as a salesperson, don't go away. Don't go away.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree.
But I want to talk about 2008 real quickly. You brought up 2010. I mean, when September of 2008 happened, the world just stopped till about March 2010, and the money stopped, right? And so today in 2020, the money didn't stop. The money is still coming. The banks were not the issue. The banks are actually part of the solution, and really helping out. And so what is, I think I'm not going to ask you for a long-term forecast, but what do you forecast for the next maybe 3 months, maybe next 6 months, now that things are back? What's the market like from your perspective, from a title world, a residential world, a commercial real estate world? What are you seeing?
So, I think one of the main drivers, obviously, in our industry is interest rates. I don't see interest rates going anywhere anytime soon. Typically, what has to happen is some very positive events. And typically during election years, interest rates stay low as well. In my opinion, I see this year kind of staying, where it is currently and just kind of moving forward, but it's busy. And I see a really great 2021. I just think that there is a lot of capital that's out there. It was a great 2019. It was a great start to the year, and people have money. And you said it best. I mean, financially speaking, there's a lot of capital that's out there still. And, based on my discussions that I have with people, they're hanging on to their money and they're waiting for some deals, and there's going to be a lot that present themselves. And, I see a lot of people out there just hustling. A different mindset than 2008, 9, 10.
Yeah.
It's just it's much more positive, and I see some great things on the horizon.
Yeah. The studies show, just be talking about on the horizon, studies show pre-COVID that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist do not exist today. And by the year 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. And by the year 2027, almost 1% of the workforce will be freelancers. And so there was so much change on the horizon for this decade. And now you have COVID, which accelerated that, in my opinion, to force companies to be really current, where they were kind of stuck in 2012, 2005.
Sure.
And think with a more innovative daily mindset. Just going back to mindset, what you said earlier. So how are you, and how do you think your industry, will innovate over the next couple of years based on just the shift that we've seen the last couple of months?
Well, I've already seen it. So I think what has happened here, COVID has forced companies to, get with the times, not completely reinvent, but, possibly, I mean, technology wise, there are a lot of things that can be done um, that were not really available before. The industry was moving in a direction, for example, of having, electronic signings, and electronic signatures have been around forever and have been approved forever. Yet lenders do not, have not been at that place where they are completely okay having all the documents electronic. We took a huge step forward with that in the title industry and the lending industry, and things are moving to a place where you can have registered online notaries. And, we've taken ourselves to a place where we've pushed ourselves to a couple different companies. I've gotten the staff.
Before we move on, I want to talk about the electronic signing, because
sure.
When you say it could have been done, but it wasn't, I have seen so many companies over the decades talk about, if you just look at the last couple of years, talk about things that they want to change: working remotely, flex time, moving more to technology. And they talk about it for years and years and years. And they can't seem to get any traction, and they get stuck in their complacency. And now, within a matter of weeks, things that took years, and I would say tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of people's time and energy and whiteboarding and brainstorming, all in a matter of weeks, got accelerated and done. Yep. And so how do we take that momentum, right, of not overthinking? It's kind of like hiding something in plain sight, where it's like, it's right there, it's so easy, it's complicated, and get out of our own way moving forward. Not only Title Connect, but all companies, where everybody just has more of a do it mindset than let's deliberate on it and talk about it forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, right? Like, how many things have we talked about? The electronics, people have been talking about it for years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's on board because they realize that the industry is going to stop. Well, I think, the way you get momentum is by really understanding that the world is changing.
Right.
And how do you not get caught flat-footed the next time something occurs? You just have to be realistic, right? There's going to be events that occur that change business. And I think that you're going to be a piece of that, in my mindset of how we do things, and on the coaching side, to just continually talk about it. I think a lot of the things are not even, before this happened, yes, we thought about it. Yeah, right. So one needs to move in this direction. But then it was like, oh, crap. We're at a place where it has to be done now.
Right.
And it's amazing how fast.
Right. And not only how fast it got done and implemented and rolled out, but how quickly people adapted to it, accepted it, moved on. And it's almost like it's becoming standard. And if you look, again, we're just kind of like talking here, but if you look at all the hours spent, think about all the hours saved on a yearly basis now, just in your industry alone. How many hours would you just gut are saved? Oh. Right.
It's amazing. Think about it. If you and listen, again,
I just want to say this before you answer that question.
Yeah.
Because I want people to think, who are watching now, think quantitatively, right? If you can save 4 minutes a day, this is just fact. If you can save 4 minutes a day, that's 24 hours a year. That's 24 hours a year. So that's just 4 minutes a day. And so multiply that times a company of 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people. Looking at the minutes, and then times that quantitatively by the amount of more business that you can bring in the door. I mean, it's staggering how to grow revenue.
Simply, it would save, you can save hours. Just think about it on the closing side. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to drive anywhere. You don't need to. I mean, the drive time alone, you're driving hours a day.
Well, drive time, gas mileage, expenses of gas mileage, the economy, right? Pollution. I mean,
Sure.
there is so many. Right, what you have to get dressed to actually wear to a closing versus doing electronic. You're saving your dry cleaning bill, right? I mean, it's like it's endless, right?
Right. You wear your suit on top, but no pants.
Correct. Right. All people need to see is this much of you.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead. So what else do you think we're going to see? Like, I just think innovation is going to be so incredible this next decade. You know, colleges pre-COVID, we're trying to figure out how to teach adaptability because they couldn't. It's hard to teach what they don't know exists yet. And so how is Title Connect? How is your industry adapting? You know, to what is about to come, which we may not even know because we can't see it.
Yeah. So just for us in as a company. I'm starting to look more at different programs and systems that we can utilize that keep us connected, provide valuable information. You got to be relevant and you have to be consistent. So, I'm looking at different types of systems and programs that can provide the sales staff the ability to offer things to clients that still have value, they're relevant to everybody, and we can consistently do that. And we don't necessarily need to be sitting in front of them on a regular basis. And again, we talk about things happening fast. I mean, I've identified 3 items that I think that add extreme value, as well as the team does, that we can roll out pretty quickly. So I think that the mindset is that you just need to have your head on a swivel and be out there looking for things that can drive your business and innovate and make sure that you're ahead of the curve. And like you said, it's hard to see, right? Because we may not even know what's coming, but I think generally we do know. Listen, if there is whatever opportunity we have to automate anything in our industry, we need to be able to do it and take those steps to be prepared. Maybe we don't use it all right now, and I still think the lenders are not in a place where they're accepting these full electronic signatures and all this and whatnot. Memory, people's short-term memory is, it fades quickly. So we're walking. What's that?
People's short-term memory is short. Right.
Sure. So, this is all going on. It was propelling at a very quick speed. And, as things open back up and whatnot, things have, you can see it tapering off. We're still pushing forward and getting ourselves in a position where we're ready to handle closings in that manner. But industry-wise, things have started to taper a little bit. So, it's unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. People and industries are creatures of habit, and sometimes things just, revert back. You start to get busy again, and then all of a sudden those things, start to fade. So I think it's really important to keep anything that will keep your business automated at the forefront.
I think you're gonna start to see, and I've been seeing this in companies, accountability, right, is really, I think it's all about consistent execution, right? Daily execution and more effective accountability.
Sure.
And brainstorming and looking at the ideas. Just based on what you were talking earlier, a lot of times when I'm with clients, I'll say to them, if you started a competing business across the street, what would you do? How would you reinvent yourself? Right? What would you do if there was no issue from technology, funding, et cetera, right? And that's reality today, right? Because everything is cheaper, the software, the technology, it's affordable to the masses.
Sure.
And so to me, I always think that's a great question. How would you put yourself out of business? Because I think things are going to be pivoting and moving very quickly. And just the last point, the people who fall into complacency and don't keep the momentum, are going to, in my opinion, really fall short, because the compounding of doing nothing or being complacent is really a bad place to end up.
Right, but it's super easy.
It's super easy, right? Well, you look at it, if we just, look at things quantitatively, right? You look at a month and you're like, 20 business days, let's just say on average, at 20 business days, the only time I didn't do X was 5 days, but it was productive. All right, well, that's great. We take 5 days, right? You times that by 12, because that becomes a habit. That's now 60 business days. That's 3 months of time, right? And so the discipline and the resilience of being consistent and in the game is really, really important. So Jeff, my last few questions to you, as before we move into a quick speed round, are give everybody a little flavor of Title Connect and what you guys do.
So yeah, we're a full service title and escrow company. We handle commercial transactions and we handle residential. And the interesting thing about our business and what we understand here is that there's a lot of companies out there that offer the same thing that we do. So how do you differentiate yourselves? And that's always been, right at the top of everything that we think about is how do we become different? How do we become unique? What are we doing differently? And it's ever changing. And we are always looking to innovate and change and adapt. And we're always out there asking people for, new ideas. What do you want to see? Talking to people in our industry who we service and asking them, how can we be better? How do we do things in a different manner? Is huge. But secondly, I just, and I've mentioned this is relationships. The relationships that I have created, and I know that my salespeople have created with people, is so far above what I hear industry wide, and I see it. I speak with these people all the time. The way in which we communicate with each other, and just the mindset that these folks have when they look at us as a company, they know that that they're important. They feel like a priority. They feel like our only client. They feel like we are putting them above anyone else. And the staff here does the same thing. And it's what we do. Cost wise is the same. Across the board, very, very similar. And service is what sets you apart. And the whole team here understands that retention. They're client retention folks as well, even though they're not direct salespeople.
Yeah.
So we lean on them, and they know how important they are to us. And the clients understand that like I said, relationship is a huge piece of what we do.
Yeah. I just want to say I've known you now for almost 20 years. When I was at Marcus and Millichap, you were absolutely impeccable the way you serviced everybody. I mean, it was like not even a close second. And just we've had a lot of other business things throughout the years, and you and your company have always been unbelievable. So it's nice to talk to somebody who walks their talk. So kudos to you. My last question, and your entire team. So my last couple questions. There's a lot of kids graduating college right now, where 3 months ago they thought graduating college was going to look completely differently than it does now. Right? Internships have been canceled, and just the world is just a different place. Next week, I'm doing a Young Entrepreneurs Week. I'm interviewing on all my lives all week 16 young entrepreneurs. And so what advice would you give somebody graduating college today?
God, it's tough, right? I think that it's interesting because although times are so different, I think it's still the same.
Yeah.
I think, one of the main things is try and find something that you love to do and can invest yourself in, and educate yourself on whatever it is you're going to do.
Right.
Make, master your craft, whatever it may be. This wasn't the career path that I necessarily saw myself in, but I moved as I moved through it. All I think about all day long is how do I become the best at what I'm doing? I need to learn and talk to, and I would say the last piece would be talk to as many people that you know that are in business, maybe not even necessarily the exact same thing that you're trying to do, and leverage people who have experience. Listening to people, and it's tough for younger kids. And I was there, and you want to feel like you can tackle it and handle it on your own, and ego sometimes gets in the way. But I think one of the most valuable things is to listen and take information, even if the information is not something that you think is valuable. Listen to it. Agreeing with it or not agreeing with it either way. It makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. And the only thing I would add is, ask for help, because I think when you're young, this isn't everybody, but a lot of times it's very typical when you're really young, you think you know everything.
Sure.
And the more you get and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. and it's a daily grind to learn and learn and learn. So really ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for different perspectives, and try to get out of your comfort zone of just asking people who are similar to you, but people who are not similar to you, so you can just hear different perspective of things, right?
And it's okay to say that you don't know the answer to certain things.
Yeah.
And ask questions, and I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
I ask questions of people, and so it's important.
Yeah. And then I also think it's important to embrace the youth. Like I've seen so many people who are young, out of college, maybe they start their own company or this, and they try to be bigger than they are, or they'll start their own company and they'll want to sound like, it's just like, hey, youth is an advantage. You're hungrier, you have more energy. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I have no clients and I'm going to bust my ass for you.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. Last question. Best piece of wisdom you've ever gotten?
Best piece of wisdom I've ever gotten. God, that's a rough one. I know it's repetitive, but I think that I always heard you are what you eat, you are who you hang out with, and you are you have to listen to people and put yourself in positions where you can learn and grow.
Yeah.
And listening to other people has, I think, given me the ability to easily admit, that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In certain circumstances. And it's so much easier to move on when you can understand and listen to somebody else and agree that maybe you didn't do it the right way, and say, you know what, I didn't, and next time I'm going to, and move on. And
right. Don't drain the past. One of my favorite pieces of wisdom that I've gotten based on what you just said from my parents growing up, they always used to say to me, you can learn something new from people older and younger than you, right? Like never discount anybody. And I always thought that was great advice, because I think there's a lot we can learn from the millennials, the Gen Zs, and even whatever generation is after the Gen Zs, and everybody above us. So that's what I shared there. Jeff, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you if they want to connect with you.
Absolutely, yeah. So my cell phone is 248-563-7919, and that's always the best way to get a hold of me. My email is Gunsberg, my last name, @title-connect.com, and I'm always here and available whenever anyone needs me.
I love it. Jeff, thanks for your time today. And I know it was kind of a little bit delayed. We're supposed to do it a couple weeks ago. We had a little glitch, but we're back. And I appreciate your time and your wisdom and your insight. To anybody watching, if you need Jeff, give him a buzz. And Jeff, thanks, buddy. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much.